Solving multi-step equations. This is a review of part 4. In today's lesson, students will review how to distribute and to combine like terms when a variable is on both sides of the equal sign. When a variable is where? Both sides of the equal sign. Very good. Okay, so let's take a look at these equations we're going to have this week. What do we see? We see parentheses. We see a coefficient outside of the parentheses. And I see an x on the left. I also see a variable term, an x on the right. So when you see parentheses, no matter where they are, if they're on the left or the right, you're going to do what? Distribute, multiply. Good. So we would distribute as our first step. 1. Distribute the... What do we call this number that's outside of parentheses? Starts with a C. Coefficient. So we're going to distribute the coefficient. Distribution means multiplication. And we're going to do it to both of the terms in the parentheses. So that means -5 times x and -5 plus 2. Or, excuse me. Yeah, -5 times a positive 2. So what's -5 times x? Just put them together. It's -5x. Good. And again, what's -5 times a positive 2? It's -10. Good. And then we would want to also bring down the other side of the terms in the equation. So it's 14 plus 3x. Good. So now I see a 3x on the right and I see -5x on the left. We cannot have them on opposite sides. We know they're on opposite sides because if I make a t, I can see these are on different sides of the equation. So I have to look at what's on my right and I want to move that. So step 2 is to move the variable, we call this a term, right? To the, what side are we going to move it to? We want to move this over to the left. Good job, left. And you could move it to either side, but I think it is easier because we're used to seeing variables on the left side. And we're just going to do that by, what happens when you have two terms and you want to make them one? We combine like terms. We do what? Combine like terms. So, for combine like terms, I'm just going to write CLT. You know what that means, combine like terms. We do that by doing the opposite to both sides. And when I say opposite, I'm talking about addition or subtraction, right? So I'm going to make my first t here. And what is the opposite of positive 3x? It's -3x. Now we're going to line them up underneath the variable terms. So over here and also line it up under that -5x. Great. A -3x and a positive 3x makes 0, and then we are going to bring down, and then we're going to work with these variable terms. Okay, so what is we're going to combine like terms, -5x and -3x. What's -5x and -3x? Do they have the same signs? Yes, so we say same signs, add and keep. So that's -8x. Now this says to bring down the constant terms. Okay. So bring down the constant terms. So the constant terms would be -10 and 14. Now we have this equation, right? -8x minus 10 equals -14. So in order to do that, you'll be able to do it underneath on your problems, but I'll write it over here. Here's my equation, -8x minus 10 equals 14. I actually need to make a second t, don't I? I need to make a second t. I'll put it in a different color so you can see. And then, once I've made that second t, can I solve this equation? Yeah. And this is a two-step equation. So I'm going to circle negative 8x. And then what's the opposite of negative 10? It's positive 10, both sides. Bring down negative 8x, and that's going to equal 14 plus 10. What's 14 plus 10? It's 24. And of course, the last step is to divide both sides by what's touching x, which is negative 8. So what is 24 divided by negative 8? It's negative 3. Okay, so go ahead and get that all down. So let's take a look at number 1. It says 5x plus 11 equals 2 times the quantity of, in parentheses, x plus 4. So we see parentheses on the right side. What do you do with parentheses? You distribute, multiply. When there's a number outside of parentheses, remember, you are multiplying. You are not adding, you are multiplying. So I'm really talking about 2 times x and 2 times 4. So what is 2 times x? Just put them together. 2 times x is 2x, right? What's 2 times 4? 2 times 4 is positive 8. Good. Now we're going to bring down the equal sign in the rest of the equation. So 5x plus 11 equals 2x plus 8. So I want you to see there's 2 sides of this equation now, and there are variable terms on both sides. The first thing we need to do is make a really long t, okay? And we're going to look at 2x and look at 5x. We need to bring the variable terms over to the left. We ask ourselves, okay, look at our 2x, which is on the right. What is the opposite of positive 2x? It's negative 2x. So when we make our t, we're going to subtract 2x over here from the right, and then we're going to find that 5x on the other side and also subtract 2x. Great. So positive 2x and a negative 2x make 0. Now let's work with the variable terms over here on the left. What's 5x minus 2x? Just work with the coefficients. What's 5? Take away 2. It is 3x. Good job. So then this becomes subtraction. We're going to bring down the constant terms. The constant terms have no x. So we have a positive 11 and a positive 8 over here. Now we have an equation that looks like we can solve it, right? Because there's one variable term. Good. So we're going to make our second t, leave some space, circle 3x. Now, what is the opposite of positive 11? It's negative 11, both sides. Wonderful. Positive 11 and negative 11 make 0. Bring down the 3x. Now 3x is going to equal 8 minus 11. Is that positive 3? No, it's negative 3. Why? Because different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number, then you'll be exact. So it's negative 3. All right. So what do we do now? We have to divide, yes? Because these are being multiplied. So divide both sides by 3. Excellent. And when we're dividing and we're remembering our signs and we have negative divided by positive, Bob's cousin says the answer is what? It is negative. So remember, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So x equals negative 3 divided by 3, which is negative 1. Go ahead and get that down. Okay, so number 2 reads, negative 5x plus 18 equals negative 3 times 4 plus 5x. So we see parentheses. Now they're still on the left side. Parentheses tell you to do what? Distribute, multiply. So we're going to distribute. This time I made this red because we need to remember we're distributing a negative 3 to the 4 and to the 5x. All right, so let's start on this side of the equation. What's negative 3 times 4? What's negative times positive? It's negative. I'm going to make this a negative 12 in red just so you can see that. Okay, and then what is negative 3 times a positive 5x? So you're still distributing that. Negative times positive is what? It's negative, but it's negative 15x. Don't forget the x. Okay, let's bring down the left side of the equation. Bring down the equal sign. We have negative 5x plus 18. Now equals negative 12 minus 15x. So do we have x's on both sides of the equal sign. Negative 15, positive 5. Yes? Okay. So just look to the right side and ask yourself, what is the opposite of negative 15x? What's the opposite of negative 15x? It's positive 15x, right? So we want to add that to both sides. But remember, we're going to separate both sides of the equation with a t. We're going to make the t really long. Okay. So in our first t, we're bringing the variables together. We call that combine like terms. And we're going to do that by adding 15x to both sides. We're just going to bring all the variable terms over to the left side. Okay, so negative 15, positive 15x, they make 0. What is positive 15 minus 5? What's 15 minus 5? It's 10x, right? Plus 18 equals a, remember, negative 12. Great, okay. So now we can solve our equation. We're going to make a second t, circle 10x, and then let's do the opposite of positive 18. It is negative 18. Great. Okay. So positive 18, negative 18 makes 0. We want to bring down 10x. So this time, 10x equals negative 12 and negative 18. Do they have the same signs? Yeah. So you say same signs, add and keep. So that would be negative 20. All right. We're going to divide both sides by what? 10. Good. And what is a negative divided by a positive? Let's take a look at Bob's cousin. We have a negative divided by a positive is negative. So we have negative 2. All right, go ahead and get that down. Okay, number 3 says negative 3 times the quantity of x plus 3 equals 2x plus 1. All right, so we're going to work with parentheses first. We're going to distribute, multiply. And when we distribute negative 3 times x, we're also going to distribute negative 3 times 3. So make sure you make that little symbol. What is negative 3 times x? It's negative 3x. What's negative 3 times positive 3? Negative times positive is negative. So it's negative 9. Good job. Okay, let's bring down the right side equals 2x plus 1. Now, we have two sides of this equation. We have a 2x on the right, negative 3x on the left. Let's make a t so we can combine like terms. We can do what? Combine like terms, yeah. So what is the opposite of 2x? So we're going to bring everything on the left. So what's the opposite of 2x? It's negative 2x, right? So I want to subtract 2x from both sides. Make sure you line up your x terms. Cross out the 2x on the right side. Let's work with the variables over here. What's negative 3 and negative 2x together? Same signs, add and keep. That makes what? Negative 5x. Remember, yeah, you're adding these because they're both negative. Then let's bring down the constant terms. Negative 9 equals 1. All right. I'm going to make my t a little bit longer so I can create my second t, and I can solve this equation here. I want to circle that negative 5x. What's the opposite of negative 9? It's positive 9. Good. Bring down negative 5x. So negative 5x equals 1 plus 9, which is 10. Very good. Divide both sides by negative 5. So when you divide both sides by negative 5, the 5 divided by 5 becomes 1, and x equals, what is positive divided by negative? It's negative, so negative 2. Good. Box your answer. Okay, read the last example with me. It says 4x minus 8 equals negative 3 times the quantity of 1 minus x. Okay, so we see parentheses on the right side, so we're going to distribute, multiply. So let's distribute that negative 3, both multiplying by 1 and by negative x. So what's negative 3 times 1? Negative 3 times 1 is just negative 3. Awesome. Now what is negative 3 times, careful, negative x? So negative 3 and negative x go together. So that's going to be 3x. But what is negative times negative? Ooh, yeah. So it's positive. So that negative and negative become positive, and that becomes 3x, right? They're touching because they're being multiplied. Okay. So now we're going to bring down the rest of the equation. So we have an equal sign, 4x minus 8. Great. So we see 3x and 4x, yeah, on both sides of this equation. Make a really long T. We know that we have to combine like terms. What should we subtract from both sides? 3x, right? Okay, so we subtract 3x from both sides because we want to combine like terms, bring the variables over to one side. That's the left side we want to work with. So the positive 3x, negative 3x, they cancel out. Make sure you line up your x's over here. All right, so what's 4x minus 3x? What's 4 minus 3? It's 1. So we have 1x. All right, let's bring down the rest of the constant terms. We have a negative 8 equals negative 3. So here we see 1x minus 8 equals negative 3. Let's solve this equation by first making another t, circling 1x. Doing the opposite of negative 8, which is positive 8, both sides. Good. Cross out the 8's, bring down 1x, and 1x equals 8 minus 3. So what is 8 minus 3? It's positive 8 and negative 3, different signs, subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number, so it's going to be positive 5. Very good. You can leave your answer like this because x equals 5, or divide both sides by 1 to find that x equals positive 5. Go ahead and get that down.